Since 2008, I've run over 5,000 events and hosted well over 1 million people. This podcast is for event planners, marketers, and the industry's brightest minds. This is the Professional Partier Podcast. You can follow me, Nicholas John Field, on all your major social networks. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a very special guest, Tom Svast. Tom has been at the forefront of the music industry here in Las Vegas. Tom is a seasoned industry professional that's been at the forefront of several of Las Vegas's most iconic venues. His early days were in the Chicago club scene. Now, Tom's making a significant mark in Las Vegas. Tom shares his journeys and insights into the music scene in Las Vegas and his newest, sickest venture in Las Vegas, Substance. Let's get to it. Hey, I'm Nick. Welcome to the Professional Partier Podcast. You're opening up your venue when?
We open, our opening date for private opening is July 11th. And then we're going right into Friday, the grand opening for public, July 12th with Walker and Royce and Omnom, and then Saturday with Altura.
Nice. Why'd you decide to open in, because you run other events, right? Like how does...
Yeah, it's, well, I'm partners with Marcel Correa and Joe Borshevitz in another company called Night Vision Hospitality.
Yes.
Right. And they own Revelation and Altura and Holy House and Elation and all these other sub-brands. They own a lot. You know, they're throwing massives all the time, festivals, large-scale events. They're selling out Delvec, Thomas and Mack, and those types of events. And they brought me on for this project. I was... Before that, I was an executive for Corner Bar. I was one of the directors there, and they pulled me over to this project.
You're from Chicago, right?
Yeah, I am.
How does a nice young man from Chicago make it out to Las Vegas?
I think everybody does from Chicago, right?
Yeah, that's not a lie, because over here, I've got one of my other companies has two people from Chicago out there.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Greg Jarmalovich was director of ops for Pure Management Group, and when they were building Pure, we had mutual friends in common, and he was like, hey, you want to move to Vegas? Because I was in the club scene up in Chicago, and I was like, absolutely, who doesn't want to work in clubs in Las Vegas?
Nice.
So I relocated out to Vegas, and that's how the story started in Las Vegas.
How did, what were you doing in the club scene? And I know that you're a music producer, right?
Used to be. Yeah, I used to be a touring DJ, used to do music production, and I was also running clubs. I was a music director at some of the bigger clubs out there, and just kind of everything. I've had my hand in everything.
How'd you get in nightlife?
It was kind of by default, I believe. You know, I started making music and touring really young when I was still underage. And
there you go. That's what's up.
Yeah. And, you know, I was in the ad industry for a while out of school. And one of my best friends at the time just kept, you know, we started a promotion company called Family Chicago at the time. And I started getting heavy into touring in some of the Eastern European countries.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I started leaving the country a lot for that. Mexico, Eastern Europe,
What year
Japan.
was that?
Yeah.
What year were you doing that? Was it 90s?
And this was touring with vinyl, right?
Yeah.
So mid-90s.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, late 90s, I think it was then. I'm really bad with dates, so yeah.
That's when the Chicago house scene was like on top of the world.
It was. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's where we cut my teeth. You know, I remember sitting in the booth with, you know, Derek Carter, Derek May, and Richie Houghton, and just Mistress Barbara, and seeing these guys in the basement of clubs like Red No 5 and Psycho Bitch and Terry Bristol at Crowbar. You know, nights like that. Yeah, and just kind of cut your teeth that way. Seeing these people play on 4 decks and just go at it on vinyl.
Right on.
Yeah, and then I got really into, because of Plastic Man and Richie Houghton, really got into the outboard gear, the Roland outboard gear, and started using that and started programming MIDI and got into production that way.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. How long did you tour for before you started working in Chicago regularly?
I was doing both at the same time. I was touring, holding full-time jobs. Like I would fly out on days off and I would fly back in and go right back to work from the airport. So I was just a hustler, you know, I just kept it moving. I did that for years, and when I moved to Vegas, I gave it up for a while. But I still obviously stayed in nightlife, and then I just got the itch back. I was like, man, I really fucking miss music. You know, is it okay if I curse, by the way?
Yeah,
I say fuck all the time.
You're
good. Okay. Yeah, and I just had that itch still, and I really got deeper into production, and I really started nailing touring, and I went from there. And then I think after a while, you know, opened an agency, record labels, management companies. And I just kind of got tired of the way the industry was, the music industry.
Why?
Well, first of all, it's shady as fuck.
How so?
I think all the obvious things we think of, bad contracts, a lot of thieves, a lot of people taking credit for things they don't do, stealing tracks.
Yeah. You hear about that a lot in pop music, but not so much like you don't often hear about what the record labels are like in the more electronic EDM underground scenes.
Yeah,
like,
I think when you reach that level, right, they own you contractually because they're getting all of your sales. They're getting percentage of tours, percentage of back then CD sales. And so by the time everything dwindled, by the time you pay, there wasn't much left for them. And that's why they made money on tours, not actually on the production. But you had to do the production to get big, to get the tours. So it's just like this hamster wheel you get caught up on. And electronic music back then was much different. Nobody made production for the money. We did it for the passion of producing house music, and we depended on tours. We hoped that we made, at the time when digital became big, I had full albums and EPs chart when there was a minimal chart, way back in the day on Beatport. And, I would chart constantly. And, that's when things get a little goofy, when you start getting a little bit of attention, and people start ripping things and putting their names on things that don't belong there. And, you get bad tours, bad management, and people keeping money they shouldn't, and have trouble getting paid from people. They promise this, promise that. I think it's kind of the old adage, though. It's not much has changed. It's just the levels are different.
Sure.
Yeah.
Were you able to support yourself from the touring side of things? Obviously, you had other stuff going on, but what kind of, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of money would you make when you're when you're touring around in the 90s?
In the 90s, if I'm flying out and I'm paying, if you're overseas and you could be upwards of, back then it was big money touring for, not that I was ever big by any means, but I was having fun touring and playing massives out in Europe. And
Europe had a bigger, more active scene.
Yeah, I could fly out there and make $5,000 a night per show. Boom. So I could play 3-4 countries in a night because, you hop on the train, if you're in Bratislava and you catch a train to Prague to play, the Roxy, and then you're going to Olomouc from there, and then you're going to go up to St. Petersburg. And so you can make this whole tour on the train or by car and do one show after another. And it was pretty amazing going through all these checkpoints with your passport.
You said 3 or 4 in a night. That's an exaggeration, right?
No, weekend.
A weekend.
Yeah,
a weekend.
No, not a night. No, a weekend. No, a weekend is what I meant. Like a long weekend. No, that was not the case at all. But you can do 2 shows a night. You can do a day party. You can do the club, and you can do night. And then God knows where the afters ended up back then.
Yeah, for sure. I've not been to Bratislava. I've heard that it's a party though.
It is a party.
Yeah,
that whole block around there is wild. I can tell you. I mean it. I remember one show out there was in this airport hangar, and they lifted the DJs they lifted us up on cranes above the crowd. Oh, nice. So we were playing up on this crane lift above the crowd in this airport hangar, and it was there's no age restrictions for anything. And it's just a free for all. It was fucking wild.
Nice.
I hate to say that those were the days, but those were the days.
I bet. Yeah. What's it like now as far as the economics of the EDM industry?
Over there, I don't really know. I can speak for here.
Yeah.
I don't think much has changed for the local DJ, except for the residents make more money in the bigger clubs than they used to.
Sure. On the touring side of things, but are record labels still controlling the industry the way that they used to?
Not for the small guys. It's much different because, if you're a big act, you might be on Sony, or Universal, and that's where you are, and you're planted. With underground music, techno, house, and all those fun genres, you're on a million labels at once, it seems like. Not one person is dedicated to one label most of the time. You're remixing on other labels, ghostwriting on other labels, and just releasing on a million different labels. It's much different because you're releasing singles or EPs rather than full albums, most people. So you're one single here, one remix here, an EP here. So it's kind of a broad net.
Where do you think that's gonna? Do you think that's gonna kind of stay for the part of the course?
I don't think that's going anywhere.
No, not even with the streaming services and stuff.
I think underground DJs need it because it's so drowned out and it's such a talentless industry. Technology has made it so easy for people to produce a lot of trash.
Yeah.
And now with the advent of AI coming in and helping you make tracks too, it doesn't take a lot of talent with the DAWs and the way they're built. If you don't understand what keys are, you can still mix in key and create songs in key through these pads and stuff that they use and internally in Ableton and Logic, and you can just put everything in key. You don't have to understand how to really play an instrument. You can go to YouTube and they're going to tell you exactly how to make a track like Steven Bodzin or Maceo Plex or somebody, very complicated tracks. When it pertains to that industry, but they teach you the easy ways to do it, you know, through the plugins and everything and through the synths. It's a convoluted industry now. You know, it doesn't, I think it's more marketing dollars than talent now. You know, it used to be and it's still kind of that way. You know, I know a lot of ghostwriters that write for the big guys, and they find that consistent sound. But for the most part, you know, you can hire a ghostwriter, and then from there, it's all for marketing. You know, they have these houses that all they do is produce tracks for people for like $250. You can have someone create a track online for you, put your name on it, give you all the credit, and then it's up to you to market it, get it on the blogs, try and get it to chart, and try and get it in front of agents so they can sign to an agency. So from there, it's just marketing dollars. How are you marketing yourself on social media? And most of these guys can't even play, you know, and it's no offense to those people, but growing up in an area where you're forced to learn how to beat match, now if you close somebody's laptop and take away a cue button, most of these guys wouldn't know how to use a jog wheel and beat match.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem. You know, it's taken the art out of it a lot of times. It's taken the art of the programming out when you can just go and download a blog full of music and then just throw shit at a wall during your set and say, okay, I don't even know these tracks, but I'm going to play this one, this one, this one, rather than before, you know, growing up. And I hate to sound like the old man on the porch, but you had to spend $12 for a single track at the record shop, you know, like Gramophone in Chicago was the big place I used to love to go. And you made sure that if you bought that track, if you bought 5 tracks that day, those 5 tracks needed to be able to play together for your next gig that weekend. You know, so it had to be thoroughly thought out. Programming is pretty much a dead art. Like the art of the opener is just a dead art right now.
It's kind of scary. It's kind of sad. It's definitely sad. Definitely sad. Like, is it completely done? Do you think that it's just going to be all electronic AI produced music from coming out on the radio, or is this what people are going to be playing nonstop? Is it really dead?
I don't think the music is dead. I think the art of the music is dead. I think the art of production is dead. They are still those old heads that used, and those guys, you know, like, you know, Hans and those guys who use all this outboard gear, you know, and there's still those techno guys that use all their outboard gear. And those guys to me are still special. And I really follow those guys and what they're doing and how they push the envelope with this outboard gear. But now you can have the outboard gear used as a plug-in digitally. You know, you can drop it in your DAW, you can paint it on, you can grab a MIDI file, drop any sound you want on it without having to even play the instrument. So it does everything for you. Does it take some creativity for a human to create a track? I imagine so.
Yeah.
I imagine there's something to that, right? And I don't want to take everything away from anybody. And but I think everyone should push their own envelope creatively.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. There's got to be new ways to do it. But I mean, if you can press a couple buttons and just make a track so quickly, I really am sad. Like, this conversation has made me sad.
It is very sad. And I think that's why I quit too. You know, I've had some bad experiences towards the end when I chose to switch gears, where I'm just like, I wasn't willing to sell out for a paycheck. There's certain things I just wasn't willing to do anymore, to sacrifice the art of it, because that's why I did it. But then it was a passion. It was never a job. It's because I absolutely fucking loved making music and touring and DJing. And then that just kind of wanes the worse the industry got. And all industries are cutthroat in their own way, right?
Right.
But, I mean, music industry is just fucking, they just dog each other.
Yeah.
You know,
you have art and then you have industry. And if you have to pick one or the other, basically. And if you want to have a living, and if you want to, like, you know, drive a nice car or just drive like a normal car and pay for rent here in Las Vegas, you're probably going to have to, like, let your art go a little bit, you know?
Yeah. You know, to survive, if you're not at that upper echelon, you're going to sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I think selling out to play popular EDM or hip hop at a club when that's not your passion. And I know I have a few friends who are fucking solid producers, but they play in the nightclubs. They have to play the commercial shit to pay their bills.
Right.
Because they're not day walkers, you know, they don't want to work day jobs. And I get that. And I respect that. And they're going to keep pushing the envelope. But the problem is now, you know, you work with the agencies and they're like, well, you're playing this club and you're playing this style of music. It doesn't match what you're doing over here. We can't fuck with you.
Oh,
you know?
okay.
So there's that too. So there's this dynamic with the agents who want to see what you're doing out there and how you're putting yourself out there and presenting yourself. Well, how they're presenting themselves on social media, playing mashups and popular music, but their production is underground. There's this kind of narrative that's being twisted that the agencies aren't going to like. You know, so if you want to get signed, if you want to get popular, stick with what you're doing and make the sacrifice for longevity if that's really what you want to do. But that's a reflective point. You know, that's I'm not trying to give bad advice or lead anybody astray. Just personally, the experiences I've had, stick with what you're doing. If that's your passion, you'll eventually make it.
Is getting signed the goal?
Yeah, I think so. I think everyone wants to be with an agent. Booking is hard.
Yeah.
Especially outside of your home base. Getting a job in a place like Las Vegas, you know, there's probably maybe a dozen really good clubs that anyone wants to play, if that, in Vegas. And look at how those residents don't want to go anywhere. You're lucky to even get a guest spot and get your foot in the door. And so you end up playing local bars and, you know, local venues, you know, that are great and they're fun. And I love going to those venues over the big clubs, honestly. Yeah. And hearing a dope set with a dope sound system. But it's really hard to break in to grow. And that's where I think an agent can break that ice and that barrier for you. Yeah. Where otherwise you're going to have trouble. Because a lot of the people I know who are really talented might have a face for radio. You know, and sometimes they're looking for something different.
If somebody's like a budding artist or producer coming up, and at what point is the right time to sign to an agent?
It's always the right time if you have the opportunity. Yeah. You know, if you find someone that can stick with you, and I think the thing is being relentless, right? We need to be relentless in that pursuit with any art. You know, you can keep putting in galleries and not sell a piece, and then all of a sudden the right person buys it, it goes on a blog or on a website, and then boom, all of a sudden you blew up. I think music's the same way. You just have to keep pushing through and persevering and meeting agents and just be cordial. Don't be overly pushy, but, you know, here's what I'm doing, and stay consistent with it without being over the top and annoying. And eventually something will catch. And once that one thing catches, you know, that's all you need.
Yeah, it's just persistence.
It's persistence, yeah.
Yeah, right on.
I mean, I can't think of anyone successful that didn't have persistence. Yeah. You know, even if it's not something.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's all it takes. You know, lazy people expect success overnight, honestly. And it's crazy to even have that mindset that you're going to sit back and make tracks and all of a sudden you think you're just going to fucking blow up. No, it's happened, you know, but it's not for the majority. Yeah. It's not the way it usually works.
So you got sick of touring and then just were working in Chicago?
Oh no, I never got sick of touring. I just got tired of the industry. The clawing. Right. Yeah, I loved touring. I loved playing, but there just became a point in my life where I preferred to be the guy behind the guy. I wanted to be the people, and that's why, you know, we worked towards some of the record labels and agencies and management companies. I just didn't want to be the face anymore. Yeah. You know, it's kind of like that now in nightlife too, where it's like I would rather be the guy oiling the machine and keeping the machine moving the best that I can. I don't need to be the face of it anymore.
I hear you're good
those
at that.
Days are done, you know, pushing 50 years old, and I'm just like, I just don't need that anymore. I don't need the attention. You know, this is probably the most attention. I mean, it's not pining for attention, but it's, you know, sitting and having a great conversation with somebody and just shooting ideas and conversation. But for the most part, I just don't need that anymore. You know, I think there was a time in my, you know, through my 20s and early 30s, it's like all I thought about was I needed to be on the cover of every magazine and every article I needed to possibly be written about me. And, you know, with that came a lack of humility. And I think the ego was kind of a downfall in some of that, you know. And when we reach humility, there's a point in life where you're just like, this not where I find success anymore. Yeah. And I search for calm. Yeah.
Is that is that really what you're looking for? Like, what makes you get up and feel motivated every day?
For one, my daughter. You know, my daughter's my daily motivator.
How old is she?
She's 12. Yeah, her name's Aeon. She's everything to me, you know, and she's motivated me to change a lot of things I do in life and the way I make decisions in life. I'm not a perfect human or a perfect man but she forced me to grow as a human and as a man. Yeah. And because of her, I changed the way I approach life. Yeah. You know, it's like, oh shit, I have a responsibility now. Yeah. Yeah, man. So it was time to switch gears.
I feel that. It was like a couple months after my first daughter was born, I got sober, which I badly needed, right?
Yeah. And we all in this industry, I think some sobering moments.
Yeah, for sure. But that was definitely it. Like, you know, definitely don't want your kids waking up or like looking at you in a funny way and being like, you know,
Daddy's not right.
Yeah, that's not right. So yeah, that'll turn it around quick. Yeah. So you get sick of the industry. You're in Chicago, and your buddy calls you up in.
But that was here in Chicago. I think because I made the move to Vegas, and Vegas, I didn't really know anybody out here musically. Yeah. So I gave up music in Chicago to make that move out here.
Yeah. So
I gave it up. Yeah. You know, I still loved it then. Like that was my grind. You know, that's really what I wanted. But when I got to Vegas and I got a taste of the Vegas money and nightlife.
What year was that?
What year would Pier open? What, 20 years ago?
Yeah, it was before my time here.
And that was before, tip compliance and all those other fun things were mandatory. And
that sounds
everything.
About right, though.
A lot of cash flowing. It's somewhere around 20 years. I'm really bad with dates.
Yeah, I believe it was 04.
Somewhere around there. And I just got a taste of the Vegas money and the Vegas lifestyle. And I was late 20s at that point. I was just, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
You mean I could do this for a living and make X and have a massive house and 2 brand new cars and all this. This life was unbelievable. But it ate you up. You didn't have time to spend your money appropriately or for self-time. And it was, then we self-implode, because we're working 80-hour work weeks for the man and these giant clubs and the casinos that are working you like dogs, don't give 2 fucks about you, don't care about mental health, don't care about anything, treat you like you're trash. Yeah. You're just a number. You're there to make them millions of dollars. Fuck you. That's really the attitude they take. They don't give a shit about their employees. And I think it became a point where I got so sick of that as well. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? These people.
Was that the case? Like Pure was that was originally Andre Agassi's club. Is this right? You were there. I was not there.
I was there, and the head of that was Stevie D.
Stevie D. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and who he had investors. I know the Fry brothers. Robert Fry is fucking great. I don't know all of the investment group, so
sure.
I can't answer to that.
Sure. And you did you feel that way that they were treating you like a disposable?
Oh fuck yeah. We were all dogs. We didn't mean shit. We were carpet on the entryway. That's all we were.
The launch of Pure, I came in 2011 to Vegas, so Pure was still around, but I missed that whole wave of it opening and some of the stories I've heard from Pure and the way that club opening up really changed a lot of the nightclub industry in Vegas.
It completely changed the face of Vegas. Because I think before then, the biggest club was Raw in Luxor.
Yeah.
But it in no way had the power that Pure had. I mean, it literally changed the industry.
Why?
Because it switched casinos from focusing on gaming alone to now seeing the money they could make off nightlife.
Yeah.
I think it was that wake-up call where I know gaming, everyone fought for gaming, right? Gaming makes the money, gaming's this. Right. But now look, every big casino has a club being an anchor. Because if a club brings in $100 million for a casino,
it can, yeah.
For a property, why the fuck would they not? That's just the gross for the club for the year. That doesn't include rooms and restaurants and gambling at the tables. I mean, who knows? That could be $250 million that nightclub brought in to that casino alone just by having its doors open.
Yeah.
So they all lightened up to it, and now they all eat it up.
How did that vision happen? Like, they knew that was going to happen? They put the big investment into it?
I can tell you now, Caesars had no idea that was happening. I think they took an intelligent gamble at that point. And like, again, I'm not in that boardroom. I can't answer that. It's all assumption at this point. But my assumption would be, by the way, some of the conversations I heard go were, it wasn't a belief system in it until it happened.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit, that was the eureka moment. And I think every casino from there kind of saw it and moved with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When I got here in 2011, there was Pure, there was Jet, there was
Light Group.
There was Light. Light was closed at the time. At the time it was closed, but then it I think it was down for a couple of years and then reopened. And then Studio 54.
Yeah,
I started running club crawls around Studio 54 and the Ultra Lounge Taboo and stuff like that.
Taboo was great. I loved the Waits brothers. I loved the Waits brothers, honestly. Cy especially. Those are good dudes, man. Yeah. They were at Taboo before they went over to Wynn to open the clubs, and they did some great things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to love Taboo. Taboo was my jam.
Taboo was my favorite too.
Yeah,
I love Taboo.
There was the perfect size and I could always get a drink relatively quickly. Yeah. But yeah, then when they opened Hakkasan, that was kind of the big change. I imagine, what's your perspective on the change when okay, so obviously Pure opening up changed the face of clubbing in Las Vegas. There was another change when Hakkasan opened up.
Yeah, I mean,
you have perspective on that?
I mean, the fact you rebuild a whole facade of a casino for an entrance of a club is something itself, where you're changing. They took away the lion, right, to build the front of Hakkasan, that entryway off Las Vegas Boulevard there in the corner, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But was Excess before Hakkasan?
Yeah.
So I think Excess to me was a bigger change than Hakkasan in the way things moved. You know, if I could be wrong, but I think Excess was the first $100 million club in Vegas.
No, that sounds accurate.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And that to me, and again, that's the Waits brothers, and it was Dre involved in that, Victor Dre.
I believe he was, yeah.
I know they had Labette, they originally opened, and
Yeah.
and then that switched over. But I mean, to me, that Excess was the one besides Pure that just came in and was like the holy shit moment.
Yeah.
You know, where you had the pool and the open walls, and you had gambling in the pools in that back area.
Yeah.
And that to me,
and at the time they weren't paying like these massive tickets for the DJs.
They were, but not where they're at now. Not the $1 million a night contracts, right?
Right.
It started, you know, it came in. It definitely came in soon after. I'm trying to think of the timeline again. You know, I think Wet was one of the big ones, right? Or it was Wet, right? That started Swedish House Mafia booking them and that whole thing. And those were some of the contracts that just blew house music out of the water. Those original contracts that just, I don't want to say it destroyed the industry, but it fucked up the little man trying to do some work.
It definitely changed the industry a lot.
Yeah.
I remember when I first came to Las Vegas, I was scouting to see if I could open up a club crawl here. And my business partner at the time took me to Excess. And it was the first time that I'd ever been. I was used to Toronto clubs. I was used to Whistler, Canada clubs. You know, I'd been to clubs all over the place. Yeah. But there's something about Excess that is jaw-droppingly amazing. Yeah. You walk in, like the silhouettes of the girls, the gold walls, like the most beautiful bartenders you've ever seen in your life, like
tens across the board, right?
I was just like, what is like this is this, I'm like, this place is like out of my league. And it's crazy that club is, and still today, like
still popping. It's such a machine, and respect to them over there for fucking doing that. But wow, what a machine.
Seriously. That place is, I think that it's really the best club that is on the Strip, from longevity perspective for one, and just like staying true to just what they do.
Rain was always my favorite though.
Rain
hands down was to me the best club ever in fucking Vegas was Rain. Like nothing touched Rain's, from the resident DJs they booked to, you know, Ian was the general manager, and now he's with Red Bull. And I mean, I had a resident there with Stellar. You know, we were on the Oakenfolds nights. We often played, and it just was. I mean, all these Vegas, like J-Rock was from there. Like all these guys came from fucking Rain that now have such. They kind of run the city in their own way, you know, in their own circles, and it's a beautiful thing what came out of those clubs. But Rain was always my favorite.
Nice. Yeah. Did you ever make it to Chaos when they opened?
For one moment.
Yeah, I know. I never.
Talk about bad contracts.
I never made it into Chaos. I was like, oh, I'll just go next weekend. I'll just go next weekend, and then it's gone. I was like,
that was unfortunate. What happened?
Yeah. You want to talk about that?
No, because I don't know enough. I know my inside information from people close to it, which I won't divulge. But wow, how fucked up it got internally.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
Bad. And I won't throw anybody under the bus like that, but man, holy shit,
what a mess. A lot of like criminal activity happening.
Yeah, a lot of bad contracts, a lot of money going out to people in places where it shouldn't have, bribes, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, backdoor
large
money
percentages on top of contracts. But you know, I wish them all the best, and I hope they're all doing okay. But because it ruined a club. Yeah. You know, it ruined what could have been an era at some point. And now that I don't know if anything will ever make it there after that.
You know, really to be honest, man, the way I see that is it was probably inevitable, because it was the contracts at the clubs during that time were just getting crazier and crazier and crazier, and there was no end in sight. And that was the end. It was like, you know, okay, people realized maybe we need to dial this in. Maybe we just can't pay DJs and artists infinity and not care about it. And like And
these clubs would book, and they would take a loss. They would know that they're coming in taking a loss that night. Yeah. You know, it's crazy that you can gross over $1 million in a night, and you know you're going to lose money. Yeah. That's fucking wild to me. But hey, it works for them. That model worked for so many clubs, and still does in a way for a lot of these guys. We all thought internally, my friends in the industry, conversations during COVID, were like, thank God COVID's going to bring everything back down to reality. everyone's going to start from scratch again. And man, was that a naive way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because it came out, it skyrocketed again, worse than it was before. It felt like, because everybody was hungry at that point.
Yeah, coming out of COVID is weird. You know, I think for a year and a half, I and some of my companies, we were like, oh, when it gets back to normal, when it gets back to normal, when it gets back to normal, and it just never came. And then, you know, going back after the inflation hit here in Vegas, I think we've seen it really, really bad. Like,
we're getting kicked.
You know, it's 25%. Like, it's not anything less than that. Inflation is 25%.
You blame California too?
There's a million different factors, and then also
they were coming in cash, right? Buying over market with cash and just killing the locals.
Yeah,
driving the locals out of everything.
I know.
Coming in cash heavy.
I found a house that I wanted to buy, and it was kind of my dream house. It was my dream house, and it was like $950,000, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
So, and then they're like, oh, you're going against cash, and I think I put in. I'm like, I will pay. I couldn't pay cash. I was like, I'll give you $1,050,000, and I was like, way over asking. Yeah. And they're like, no.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that happened to you. I have so many stories like that.
I'm happy that it happened at this point.
It pulled you back a little bit.
Yeah. It brought me back to reality. I think I was like, you know, reaching a little bit further than I should have at the time. But yeah, it's crazy that stuff was happening. But a lot of the issues I think Vegas is having right now with, like, pricing's really high in Vegas right now, and it's unfortunate. And we're consistently still losing business to places that aren't charging so much. We lost a lot of convention business to Orlando, or any time that Florida can try and like weasel into what Vegas is doing, they will, and they can compete on price, and they can compete on you know, ease of travel and like hotel rooms and all that type of stuff. And it's a match. Yeah, for sure. And then on the other side, on, like, you know, the other tourist side, is we've got to worry about, like, small cities had to or counties or states had to figure out the tourism during COVID. They had to figure out that if you drive like 45 minutes from Chicago, there actually is probably some cool shit there to go see. And a lot of smaller no-name areas have found their little niche of tourism. And so instead of people flying to Vegas all the time, and we'd still get a lot of people flying to Vegas, but the demographics change. We're not seeing the same type of club people that we used to see coming in, because it's gotten so expensive. And you know, the ecotourism and that type of stuff has taken off in some of the smaller regions, and people are just driving 45 minutes out of town and going camping instead of coming to Vegas. I see that.
I would rather do that anyways, but
it's because you're pushing 50.
That's why Zion, Ivins, Utah, and anywhere out there in southern Utah.
Dude, I saw
passion, man.
I saw a headline today, and like, I pray that this is a joke. But did Angels Landing have the name rights sold to Arby's?
I hope that's not true. I did not hear this, but God forbid.
I swear I saw that headline on Instagram today. I pray that was a joke, and I'm an idiot and I fell for it.
I hope it's a spoof.
I really hope so as well.
So we have to look this up.
Chelsea. Yeah. Chelsea, if you get a second to like see if that's real,
Google it.
Yeah. Oh, I do love Utah. Utah is so good.
That's where I want to retire. Horse Ranch and Ivins, Utah.
Nice.
My wife and I we go up there all the time, and that's our place. We really have a short-term goal to get up there sooner than later.
Nice. Would you do commuting, you think, or just
I would do commuting. Yeah, I would do commuting. I'm trying to set up some things for her. We have opened some businesses. Where hopefully she can live up there, and, you know, take my daughter up there. My daughter's mom. We're all still best friends in this great little tribe. Just get out of Vegas. Get my daughter out of Vegas. And I love Vegas. It's nothing like, oh, fuck Vegas. Nothing. I fucking love the city so much.
Where town you live?
I live in Inspirada.
Nice.
Yeah, we just built in Inspirada last April. Yeah, we love it up there. It's nice and quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is quiet.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything
Okay.
Good. So it's all right.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank God.
Thank God I'm just an idiot. And,
That would have broke my heart.
I can see it happening though. But
Even for my birthday recently, my friend Tino Gomez, DJ Bad Beat, he and his wife and his newborn, we all just for my birthday went up to Sand Hollow, rented a pontoon, and then just spent some days in the historic district in St. George. And that's our favorite thing to get away for just 2-3 days. It's inexpensive, the food's great, the people are great, and it's just a nice getaway.
I like
the
St.
energy
George.
feels different.
Yeah, for sure. I like St. George. It's nice out there. And you do biking or anything?
I do. Yeah, I mountain bike and.
Have you been to Lee Canyon for the mountain
up
biking?
there? No. So funny. The first time I discovered that, we were supposed to get married up there Friday the 13th of October, Friday the 13th last year, and then that avalanche happened.
Yeah.
But when we were up there, I saw the bike trails.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And then the avalanche happened. Oops. And then I never went back up.
Yeah, you are going to watch that place explode in the next 2 years. Quote me on that.
Yeah, the weather's perfect.
Yeah.
And we live right now by Sloan Canyon, so there's a lot of trails out there.
Oh, nice.
As well, so it's right in the back.
Yeah, right on. So when you started working here in Vegas, so you worked at Pure for a little while.
Yeah.
Keep walking me through some of your projects.
From Pure, I went to I ran Seamless After Hours.
Oh yeah, that's right. I heard
the
about
legendary
this.
Seamless After Hours.
Yeah.
You know, at that time you had Gino Lapinto over at Empire and you had me over at Seamless, and it was. We still talk about it just because it was so much fun. You know, Empire would close and we'd get another rush, and now it's 4 p.m, football's on the TV, and the place is still packed with the line down the block.
Nice.
You know, it was different. Pool season ruined that, right? You had Rehab was the first pretty much big day party, pool party. Then when everybody opened it up and every nightclub had a pool attached to it, a day club.
Yeah.
So those promoters could no longer take their people to after hours. Now they had to take their people to the day and book those tables there.
Yeah.
So it kind of ruined after hours, the advent of the big day club and the pools.
Yeah.
But there again, those you can't compete against those big machines with the clubs.
Yeah.
The power they have, the booking power, the people power they have, the marketing power.
Not on Las Vegas Boulevard anyway.
But no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully downtown we're creating something new and different, and hopefully it's. I know we're going to do extremely well down there.
Yeah. So
it's going to fucking rock.
So tell me about it.
Oh, man. So we open, again, backing up, July 11th is our private opening date. We're supposed to be open New Year's. So, but with F1, Super Bowl and everything, we just kept hitting delay after delay after delay. But finally, we're right there. Inspection started today, and we'll be ready to go. It's been a long, arduous journey. Learned a lot, that's for sure. But it's a monster. It's a 19,000 square foot concert venue.
That's massive.
It's massive, and we're your neighbor. We're right next door to Raised by Wolves.
Yeah.
So you're going to catch a lot of business. I told Dan you better open for those doors for after hours.
Yeah.
Our number on our wall fire code is 12 and change. So if that tells you anything, what we can fit in that room, it's going to be wild. We built a modular stage so we can do bands. And we could do nightclub version. For clubs, the stage expands. And for nightclub, it comes back down to size.
Yeah.
So the goal is to just do every genre of music in there. They've done some announcements recently with Insomniac, Bass Rush, all those. Then we know Revelation and Altura and all those brands are under the same roof.
Yeah.
We've already sold out several shows.
You've already sold out several shows.
A month and a half before they even date, they're sold out.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
That's
thank
really
you.
good.
Yeah, so we have a massive stage with risers on the side for table service, 100-foot LED wall, 2.5 pixel pitch Epson wall that came from a film studio, full L-acoustic ground stack system. Casey Ray and Evan Bloom from Trade One Productions designed the AV for it. Gil Han over at AV Gear. He helped us curate a lot of the equipment for the club.
Yeah. So what specifically is your role in it?
My title will be director.
Yeah.
Yeah, my title, director of ops. So it's basically, I've worked with Joe and Marcel really close from the inception of the lease signing all the way through till now. The three of us have been attached at the hip 7 days a week for a year and a half now. So yeah, great dudes.
Nice.
Yeah, and a lot more things in the works. We can't announce them, but yeah, we're pushing towards many more things.
Nice. Yeah, I've got I have a firm belief of what's happening in downtown Las Vegas. Like Las Vegas, when I first came in 2011, the downtown was a shithole. it was like the biggest shithole that I've ever seen in my life, and I didn't want to go down there at
Yeah.
all. And now it's popping all the time everywhere. And I'll say, like, maybe I was just maybe I just couldn't find it, but I think that the culture and any scene of any kind was kind of lacking in Vegas. And now you're seeing the arts district, you're seeing downtown. There's other pockets all over the city that are popping up, and it just gets better and better and better every year.
And I mean, thank God for Tony Hsieh, right?
Yeah.
You know, to take that money and have a vision of what he saw down there. And, you know, Corner Bar has kind of caught on to that as well. Corner Bar's done some great things over there. You know, and we hope to be that next big one coming up through there.
Yeah.
Multiple venues. And
what do you think is going to make obviously you've got really good acts coming through, but what do you think is going to make the venue awesome?
I think it's, you know, what we focus on, you know, I say this loosely, but anyone can open a club, right? Doesn't mean you'll succeed, but anyone can get funding and open a club. It's filling it constantly, night in and night out is the game, right? The hardest part. You can book whoever you want, you can build the club, but if you can't get people in the door, you're fucked.
Yep.
I think the biggest thing is what we always stress, even with our interview process, with our drink prices, everything is thought through to take care of locals, bring in repeat business. Retention's another one. You know, I can think of some clubs downtown where you walk in, there's a cool experience initially, but there's no retention because you get bored quickly. There's nothing to keep people involved.
Yeah.
You know, what we've done is we tried to create an experience to keep people involved with things like a massive 130-foot plus bar. You know, so no one ever has to wait for a drink. No one ever has to leave the room for a drink. So there's no ebb and flow off the dance floor because the dance floor is the bar and vice versa. The act is surrounded on three sides, almost boiler room-ish, where you can be closer than me and you to your favorite act. Where the act is engrossed in with the crowd, where the staff has, you know, their own massive locker room, private bathrooms. We built the venue so no one ever has to go through the crowd for anything except for porters and security. We tried to do everything where we thought of everything so everyone is happy at all times as much as possible. And that keeps employees happy, it keeps the talent happy, it keeps the locals and the people spending their hard-earned money in the venue happy. You know, drink prices is another one. Drink prices downtown have gotten way the fuck out of hand. I mean, why are you paying $22 for an adios? I understand COGS. I understand keeping those things in line, but it's still not that fucking bad. I think there's greed to it. And when you don't, you know, my wife runs Lucky Day downtown. And I just, not taking a shot at anybody here, but they've lost a lot of the locals that used to go there because of the prices of the drinks. Yeah. You know, and these are things we need to be heady about and not get greedy when we start making money. Let's keep things status quo, right? We'll watch those numbers, make sure COGS are in line and all those things. But if we're turning and burning and our COGS are single digits to low teens, why are we fighting that and getting greedy? When people are buying more drinks because they can afford to drink more. You know, at our club, you can buy 2 drinks where you go to another club, you can only afford 1. Those are the things we want to make sure that we're stressing and we're taking care of to keep people happy and keep people coming back. Because, you know, you go to the strip and it's, you know, it's $22 for a Crown on the Rocks for, you know, a couple ounces of Crown. You're like, fuck, I could buy a bottle for that. Even being a, you know, a club owner and director and executive, whatever, all the roles I've had in this business, I still have trouble paying that. Yeah. When I go somewhere and I see that. And I think, you know, with inflation, the cost of living, we really need to take care of these people. You know, they just paid $50 to get into your club. You know, how many people, and I stress this to employees when I talk to them, how long did someone have to work in their day to afford a night out with us? You know, most people have to work 2 to 3 days on average with the wages right now and inflation and rent just to afford one night out in our club. Yeah. So let's treat them that way. Let's recognize that and make sure they're taken care of. Be kind to them at the door. Be kind to them at the bar. Let's keep drink prices in that Goldilocks zone, you know, where everybody's happy. We're making money and profit and they're happy and they're buying more drinks. And they can afford to come out to our venue and party and be treated well. You know, where it's not like, can't stand here, can't move here. I mean, we're like, where am I supposed to stand in this club? There's nowhere to go. Yeah. You know, but you got to keep it moving wherever moving is going. These are the things that we thought about, and these are the things that the 3 of us have really banged our heads together to figure out to try and get right when we built this venue. Yeah. We want to make sure that, again, we want to be the venue that thought of everything that we could think of. Every problem in the industry, from culture to operations to layout, everything, we tried to think of it and we tried to nip it in the bud with this venue. to try and create the near perfect venue that we could with the space that we had and the budget we had.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Describe it more. I want to tell us what it's going to look like.
I think some of the press releases you'll see that are coming out or that are already out are, we refer to it as kind of like this post-apocalyptic. Everything is hand-troweled concrete. So kind of brutalist architecture that we love, where everything is concrete, the walls, the floors, everything. And you come into this setup and you come around and there's this wow moment around the riser wall. And it's just this massive, we're working right now with some local artists to get some artwork done in there. And, this is going to be a process, right? It's not, we have this thing that we're going to do in stages. We're going to get this initial stage open and we're like, okay, we have a stage 2 plan and then we have a stage 3 plan to keep growing it. So it's an ever evolving venue. So it's not all at once. You just blew your load and then boom, there it is. This is what you have for the next 10 years with us. Yeah. That's not the way we went into this. We went into this like, what can we do phase 1? Yeah. All right, this is our target for phase 1. Now let's phase 2. Let's grow it and change it. So
are the different phases different square footage or are you just kind of like
not so much, maybe some square footage. We're playing with some things in some of the different areas of the club. If we put a wall here, what would this do? Can we create a different stage here? Can we create a second room here?
It's all going to be one room though?
It's all one big, massive fucking room.
Yeah.
Yeah, big back of house. Again, the back of house is directly behind our big boom ring bar. Yep. So you go back of house, it's all the coolers, it's all the dry storage, it's the employee locker room, it's the offices, it's the front of house, it's the security office. Everything is behind there, so no one has to go into the crowd. So there's ease of use. You're an employee, you got to go to the bathroom. You don't have to stand in the GA line and fight your way through the crowd. Right. Jump off the bar, go to your private bathroom, you're back out. Especially in a club that size, that matters because we're built on speed and efficiency. Yeah. Every bar was created to house 2 bartenders with room to grow. That's how big we wanted and expansive we wanted to make this bar. So we can put 16 plus bartenders on at any one time and still have room for comfort for everybody to work. But I think some of the things, is adding art installations and adding a little more wow moments and kind of just being a transformer in that way. We're going to experiment with different parties and things like that and just see what works. To keep evolving.
Are you going to open up only for events or are you going to be open every weekend?
Oh, we're open every weekend for sure.
Yeah.
We're looking, we just hired a woman named Nicole to do our BEO sales. So we want to be an event space as well. So we can actually sell the room for event space that is non-club hours. But again, we want to do every genre of music. We want to do country. We want to do rock. We want to do reggae. We're big in the Latin markets, and then we want to do house and want to do techno. So we really, the goal is to be open 7 days a week with a different genre of music every day. That's the goal.
That's sick.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Nice. Who's on your team? Like as far as like who do you, when you're assembling a team to run a project that big, how do you do it?
It was literally just me, Marcel, and Joe this whole time.
Are you gonna run 7 days a week just to you guys?
You're talking about from the inception. No. So we have EJ Mason as our general manager, our pouring general manager. And we have Gio Villanueva, who is our assistant general manager. Both solid humans. They've sacrificed for this project as well and have done a phenomenal job to get the backside of operations up and running so I can focus on some other things. It's just this really beautifully cohesive team of brothers.
What other things are you focusing on?
So I can continue to focus on the build to get our doors open.
Yeah, of course.
So they can worry, they've been we received over 500 applications from our announcement for hiring. Yep. So these two dudes had to sift through 500 plus applications and try and narrow these down. And they did first interviews, and for weeks they did interviews, narrowed it down for us to step in and decide who the final people would be after those interviews. Yeah. But, we also have the catering company, Night Vision Hospitality. We do large scale like festival catering and stuff like that, liquor only. So EJ's been helping me with that because we have Foam Wonderland on the 29th at Craig Ranch. Yeah. So that's another big one coming up that we have to focus on that. Now we have an 8,000 person massive at Craig Ranch and we're going into a club opening and it's the same teams. Yeah. So it's taxing, but man, is it amazing.
Yeah, cool. Who decides on talent? And
that is Marcel and Joe have their marketing teams. They have a crew. Wiggs is another guy. AR, all those guys. They do a lot of bookings for the club internally.
Yeah.
You know, you have Christian on the Elation side. I think does a bunch of his bookings, and yeah. So it's a they have their own teams.
Oh yeah. So it's like it really is leveraging the whole network of.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so many moving pieces, and because there's just like this giant umbrella company with all of these other brands underneath it that are always moving. It takes a team. It's not as big as you'd think it is, honestly, when you go behind the scenes.
Yeah.
There's just a handful of people really dogging it and just fucking working for a common goal. To throw a great fucking event or a great party and open a great club. Where most people have they have corporate teams or offices full of people doing the jobs that a few of us are doing.
That's impressive. Nice. Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, I'm so interested to hear like what the team to make it all happen it really is, because if you're going to be open several days a week, it's like that is a lot of tickets or a lot of like feet in that are going to be walking through there.
Yeah, and this includes, you know, the hopes of, you know, like I said, jumping on project number 2, 3, and 4, and however else that works. So, you know, as we're doing that, we'll continue to build as a company and add more locations.
Do you think that there's do you think the market change is something you have to worry about? Like with, I see the kids, like 21-year-olds, drinking and going out less. Do you see that? No. Yeah.
The per cap might be less depending on the genre of music. And I think per cap's a big tell. What I see, and we got some really interesting data, and I don't want to dive into it because it is one of our promotion teams, but we were surprised when we saw the data at some of these shows for people under 21 because they throw 18 plus events. Yep. We were staggered by the amount, how old the crowd was. It wasn't getting younger. It was staying old and growing. And we were all just kind of fucking blown away by it. We assumed like, oh, this might be a 50-50 show, you know, 50 underage and 50 21 plus.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close. And it was late 20s.
You know? Well, that's what I'm saying.
Early 30s, late 20s. It was crazy. So maybe you're not wrong in reflecting on it, but it's the younger kids aren't spending. So you're probably right. And the olders continue to spend. And maybe that's an income thing, right?
Yeah, it's not cheap to go out at all. So,
but the thing is too, employees aren't getting younger. We're having trouble finding younger employees. So I don't know what the fuck they're doing for a living or how they're making money or where they're living or what they're doing. Because the cost of living, they don't want to work. And I'm sorry for anyone underage that is a dog and fucking puts in the work that is not meant for you. It's crazy when we do these interviews. There's not many young 20s coming in for these interviews. These are people in their mostly late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
And that's most of our staff.
Yeah.
You know, because they just don't even interview or don't apply or don't have experience or expect to come in and bartend, never poured a drink in their life.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be a bartender but can't even do a, you know, simple 1.5 ounce pour.
Yeah.
You know, first thing we did was do a pour test left and right hand. 1.5 ounce, 2 ounce, 3 ounce. If you failed it, you no longer were available for the job.
There you go.
So that was the way to really narrow it down. We started with the pour test for everybody. If you didn't nail the pour test, we can't talk to you any further. Yeah, it has to be left-handed and right-handed.
That's good.
So we know all of our bartenders can pour.
You should do it with them blindfolded.
Yeah, but that's the next thing.
That's your test number 2. You're like hitting them with Nerf guns. Yeah.
But, you know, it's funny. I guess you're right in hindsight and reflecting on this conversation. Thank you for opening me up to that. I didn't, you know, and if they do spend, our per cap has been really good, especially at the large scale events, some of the massives and some of the things we've done where we watch the data. And I love data. I'm a data freak when it comes to numbers and doing spreadsheets. And it was really eye-opening to see those numbers, how little the younger crowd was spending and coming.
Yeah, the way I see it is that they don't like drinking. I honestly think that drinking.
What do you think it is?
I think that health conscious is the way of the future.
Do you think with health conscious you're talking about other modalities to go out and party, like cannabis and psilocybin or anything like that at all? Or they have all these elixirs now and everything. That's
never going to compare to what we got going on.
It could be a part of it.
Yeah,
right?
but
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
The drinking culture that that I grew up in. I'm 41, and we drank hard. Like we went out to drink hard, and I know
On
that
purpose.
and like it was like
Yeah.
get blackout drunk all the time, and that's not a
Yeah.
thing anymore. Like I don't. It's not cool to get blackout drunk, and like it sounds weird coming out of my mouth, but it was kind of cool to go get blackout drunk when I was 21,
for all of us, right?
25,
It
like
was.
28,
It was,
29, 30, 33.
The number keeps going and it stops.
Yeah.
And I respect that. I love that you live a sober life. I think that's a great inspiration for people in the industry. And I think more of us need to do it and take that lead, to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, it's, I think, people can't, people like me can't handle to drink all the time. It's like why would you just have one drink? That doesn't make sense to me. It's like, well, you would go out and you would go get blackout drunk. That would be my MO. But I found myself deep in a career. I was like 10 years deep into a career of nightlife and partying and doing this stuff. And it's not a requirement, like by any means. Like I found myself thinking that I needed to have alcohol to have fun, but that's not the case. Yeah. So, and it took me a while to get over that, to like be able to go sit in a bar and like enjoy myself. Yeah. But I can totally do that now. Like I will go to bed a little earlier. Yeah. But despite that, like I definitely enjoy myself when I'm out having drinks and stuff like that, or with people having drinks, and it just took some getting used to. And one thing that we're doing at Raised by Wolves is we're releasing a full mocktail menu.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. And like, they're like going to be like $8-10. Like they're going to be good mocktails, and we're going to really promote that quite a bit. And we'll do like sugar-free ones as well. Cause like you can't, being health conscious as well, you actually pay attention to how much sugar you consume. And like most mocktails, when you go to any restaurant, it's going to be loaded with sugar, right? And so you're going to have like one or two, and then you're like, it's kind of enough. But like, you kind of want the ability to like sit there. I drink fast no matter what I'm drinking. That's like that was kind of my thing, right? Yeah. So if you just give me like something, I will consume like 5, 6, 7 of them over the course of 2 hours. Yeah. And so but I would not do that. I wouldn't do that with a can of Coca-Cola. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't do it with like a can of Sprite or a glass of juice. But if I can find something that's like has like 5 grams of sugar in it, I'll have a bunch of them. Yeah. And so. I'm I'll be the guinea pig and really push this hard and see if I think it's going to work. I really do.
I hope so, and you got to give me some feedback on that because we're debating it. Working with the reps from Breakthrough and Southern, they've brought a lot of those NARTDs in for us. Yeah, and we're like, those mocktails taste really good and they taste really close, but the cost of them is astronomical. Yeah. I mean, it's 3x a fucking beer, 3-4x a beer. It doesn't make sense per ounce for us to even put it on the menu because of what we have to charge for it. So we're better off just buying those are the Heineken Zero.
Those are the pre-made ones, right?
Yeah. Those are the RTDs.
Yeah. So Danny has been putting together like a good list of stuff, and if you combine that with like our NA beers and our like the Liquid Death and all their flavors and stuff like that, we've actually got like a pretty solid selection of stuff that you can sit there and drink. So yeah, I'll let you know because I think it's going to work. I really do. I think that if we push it properly, people are going to go in just for the mocktails. And in fact, like somebody was walking near the bar and we were a little bit slow, and I'm like, hey girls, why don't you come inside? And they're like, oh, we don't drink. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect because we just released our mocktail menu. And they're like, oh, okay. And they came back like 20 minutes later. Oh, nice. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was the first group that I asked. So I think that there is gonna, I need to cater to that crowd more because it exists more. And like just because the 21-year-olds and 22-year-olds don't want to drink as much as we did when 20 years ago, doesn't mean that they don't want to go out and have fun and be social and stuff like that. And like so make it work.
What's interesting is you say that, and I hope thank you for that. I hope you let Danny share that sell-through data with me because I'd be really curious if it was successful with that program for you or not.
Yeah.
Next door.
It's not gonna compete
No,
with
but if there's
you know.
if you're selling even a handful a night, there's something to that.
Yeah. I'm confident.
But my friend downtown owns one of the breweries, and I went and I had by his place a couple weeks ago with another friend, and they're pulling back on their percentage, on the alcohol percentage.
Interesting.
They're saying that they're showing that the really high percentage alcohol isn't doing so well, and they're starting to pull back on the percentage where, you know, for a while it was, you know, anything in the double digits for, you know, some sort of master craft brew.
Yeah.
It was like, that was the big thing. Now they're pulling it back, and he said we're no longer doing those. They're not selling.
Just a little side note on that, like, and you spending time in Utah. I remember going out to Utah, and you're like, can I have a beer? And like they'll pour you like a bud or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, this is like 2.5%. You like take a sip of it, but all the bottles that they have behind the bar, they're not under the same alcohol mandate, and so they overcompensate with those bottles back there. So they're like 12% beers, and I'd go skiing in Bryan Head where it's like the base elevation's like 11,000 feet, and like I'd have like one of those beers and I'd be like blasted and be like, what the fuck is going on, man? So but yeah, I definitely see that being a thing. I went on a ski trip recently, and it was like I do this heli skiing, super like nice. That's I do my dream trip every year of heli skiing. You got this remote lodge, and there's like a beautiful bar, and there's the bartenders, and after you do your day of heli skiing, everyone sits around the bar and they have apéro and they like chill around. And I would slam like 4 non-alcoholic beers. So.
And that was it.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I would drink it. It was good. It got good. Non-alcoholic beer, I think, got good.
It come a long way.
Yeah.
I drank NA beers for a long time, and they got really good because they used to be terrible.
They used to be
Keystone
really
or
bad.
Something was one of the few, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, and they did something to the Heineken one that made it a lot better in the last like 5 years.
Yeah, that's the number one I think in the world is the number one NA beer.
Yeah,
the Heineken Zero.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the beer that they were serving me at that lodge, but it was really good.
It was good, huh?
Yeah, I'd have like 4 or 5 of them. Like, yeah, it's a lot though.
Garçon, bring me another.
Yeah. But it's I've had to change my business model a little bit on the club crawl, and I have to take into consideration the age demographic getting older for the bar as well. Like I am thinking about that.
Do you mind that though? And the reason why I ask is because if your per cap is up and that's your target, even if it's not your target market, but if you're booking it and you're filling the crawls but per cap is up, does it matter? Or you're just looking longevity, like down the road, like, okay, where are we going to be in 5 years when these people are completely out of it and they turn into us, what we are now?
For the club crawl, it matters because I think that anybody can go on a club crawl. Like the first customers I sold here in Vegas were in their late 50s, but the majority of people are in their 20s, and you find that less of them are. It might just be the Vegas being expensive and them not having enough money to come and party here for 4 days like they used to 5 years ago.
To that. Yeah.
So, but it does affect it. Yeah.
But the casinos are breaking records, so what does that look like? It's interesting, this dynamic between, what we're seeing and the lack of growth in some of these areas to where the casinos are at. So people are still here,
The casinos are breaking records, but at the same time, they're losing all this money. Apparently, if you listen to
unless you're Fontainebleau or somebody or Resorts World, I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
talk about a kick in the dick.
yeah. I'm sure, but my understanding is like Caesars probably isn't doing too well. Definitely the new ones, Fontainebleau and Resorts World, are going to be struggling on that stuff. And there's money being made, and especially like in the gambling world, like the sports booking is like fucking crazy.
Talk about breaking records too.
Yeah.
I don't gamble, but
yeah. And that's I think that's going to change everything. I don't know. I think it'll go through a phase where at some point, people are going to be like, okay, this isn't working, and it'll go through the reset just like we were supposed to have with COVID, but I've in my 13 years here in Vegas, I've noticed like 3 or 4 year cycles. The cycles aren't the same, but there's like eras, and usually the eras will last about 4 years, and then like the DJ wars that happened in 2014 to 2018 and stuff like that we were talking about, and the COVID cycle that we're probably coming out of right now, and yeah, we'll see how it goes.
And you're right, everything's cyclical.
Yeah.
Right, it's going to come back. Something's always going to come back, or it evolves.
Yeah.
Even if it does come back, it comes back a little bit different, but it always comes back in some way.
Yeah. And I saw that in Whistler. So if you're familiar with Whistler, a little bit, yeah. So I lived up there in the ski town for a few years, and they got hit really, really, really hard, and nobody ever thought it was going to come back. But 5 years later, breaking records again. Like,
it's a pretty wealthy area, though, isn't it? Whistler?
Yeah.
Super wealthy.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah. Anything else you want to say about your bar before it opens?
I don't think so. I just
It's exciting, man.
Follow Substance LV on social media, and look out for all the show announcements coming. It seems to be announcing another one every week or a couple a week, and it's just going to keep growing.
One more time, what was the opening date? The
July 12th is the
private.
The public one.
Public.
Yeah,
okay,
so
cool.
12th and 13th is the opening weekend for the public. July 11th, which you'll be there, is the private one.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Rock and roll.
All right. Thanks.